Welcome to Major Keys. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have an interview with Selena Castillo. She is the creative director for the Duke women's basketball team, and she is responsible for all the cool content you see on their social media pages and all of the branding during this hashtag Kara era. So can't wait for you to see that. But before we get to that, I want to highlight 3 boss moves that women have made in sports recently. The first being Sarah Fuller, who became yet another woman to score in collegiate football. Number 2, Tara Vanderveer, legendary in our game. She broke the record of the late Pat Summitt to become the all-time winningest coach in basketball. And number 3, Kendall Coyne Schofield, who became the first woman to coach in the NHL Blackhawks organization. So congratulations to her, and make sure you check out this video where she drops some gems and talks about why it is important for her to improve the game for girls. All right, congratulations to all 3 of those women. Now let's get into this interview with Selena. I'm welcoming in my guest, Selena Castillo, the creative director for the Duke women's basketball team. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I mean, there's the pandemic out there and some crazy things, watching debates and things are lifting my blood pressure, but for the most part, pretty well. I'm safe and happy, so all good. So I know you work in sports now, but you also grew up playing sports. So first challenge is you have 60 seconds to tell me your sports journey. So whatever you think that is comprised of, but you only have 60 seconds. All right?
All right. Yeah.
All right. Time's on the clock. Ready? Go.
So I was very active as a young kid. Try to kind of a tomboy, right? Always wanted to play any sport. Recess and PE were my favorite, right? Hours in elementary school, middle school, and then in high school I played 5 sports: track, cross country, volleyball, basketball, softball. The one sport I wanted to play was soccer, but it was the same season as basketball in Florida, and that was my non-negotiable sport. I played basketball no matter what. And then ultimately I played basketball at Emory in Atlanta. And that's it. I mean, pretty short there. That's pretty much my sports journey. Like I said, pretty much always was playing any sport I could, whatever it was in season. And what I do now is run. I'm like a runner.
Okay.
More than anything these days. And I still will play pickup when I can, but obviously with the pandemic, it's hard to get in the gym with other people these days. So not much pickup going on. But that's my sports journey. I think that was pretty short.
I didn't actually have the clock going, but I think you were definitely under like 40 seconds. So that's good. Before researching you before today, which we've known each other for a couple of years now through the WBCA, but I didn't know that you played at Emory. So actually that means at some point I imagine our paths crossed because I'm from Georgia, but I took a visit to Emory.
Okay.
I think when I was like a junior in high school, and we're only a year apart. Well, maybe I was a senior.
Yeah.
A senior. So there's a chance that I either saw you play or saw you practice. So small world.
Yeah, it could be. I want to say it rings a bell now. Like, oh yeah, I think I did remember your name, but I don't know. I could be making that up.
Well, small world, of course. Okay, so what did playing 5 sports or playing sports in general teach you while you were growing up?
The biggest thing was teamwork, and that was actually why I chose to play basketball in college instead of run track or cross country. Although, of course, there's a team element to track and cross country, but I just loved the aspect of being on a team. I loved the feeling of coming together, on the court, specifically maybe getting a defensive stop, coming up with like pass, wide open layup type play. There was no better feeling than that at a young age for me, let alone as you get to the college ranks when obviously competition is a little higher. So that's the biggest thing is it's bigger than the individual. You can't win a game by yourself. So that was probably the biggest component of sports that I think has helped me working with a team. Obviously, work with a team in my career now. So definitely that, and time management, right? Hard work ethic, competition. I'm very competitive. And at times that definitely has gotten the best of me, right? But the good thing is for the most part, you can channel that always in sports. And that's huge for me. In fact, growing up, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I would have probably said high school coach, middle school coach, because that was all I knew, right? In middle school, all I knew was middle school coach. And then I got to high school, like, oh, wait, high school is a cool level. Let me do high school. And in college, I kind of still felt that way, but then I, kind of evolved in other ways. But I just loved everything about teamwork and competition when it comes to sports.
You're responsible for a lot of the social media and the graphics that we see, which are very fly coming out of the Duke women's basketball accounts. But give me a better idea of what you do. Like if you had to encapsulate what you do,
Right.
share with that, because it's not. I wouldn't say it's very common on every staff,
Right.
you know. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Right. Yeah. So I started October 2017, so about 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago, to this month. And I manage all of our social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And then my kind of bread and butter when I came into this position was graphic design. And I've taught myself all of those skills, which is something I'm definitely proud of, but also it's like amazing. There's a lot of creative people who are self-taught, especially this day and age. So anyone who's maybe interested in doing that, you can do it. You can go on Google and learn a lot basically with Photoshop and those sorts of, applications and softwares. But anyway, so manage all of our social media, create any of the content you see. We have a video department who, when it comes to game day type content, helps with that. But otherwise, everything else, creative content, comes from me. I do motion graphics, and then I have about a year ago started using a camera. So I do video content now. It's been a lot of fun. There's times where it's like very challenging, right? Because it's so unknown and it's like out of my comfort zone. But that's been a big component of my kind of growth, right, in this position recently, is the video work. So I think that's like pretty much everything. I mean, I always say I pretty much manage the visual brand, the digital brand, anything that you see on a screen that has to do with our program. I pretty much have a hand in or create it or whatever the case might be. So
I'm going to guess you were the one shooting the video. I saw it went viral of Kara Lawson
yes.
talking to the players maybe last month or a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been? I know you grew up playing basketball, so I imagine Kara Lawson was probably on that list of people that you saw and watched. How has that been having her come into the program?
Oh, amazing. I mean, like you said, her resume speaks for itself. She's accomplished so much. Definitely watched her playing for Pat Summitt, which is huge. And it's amazing because there's so many times I'll be talking to Kara and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can sense Pat. You just feel it. And like you said, yes, as a young hooper, it was like Pat Summitt, and then everyone else, right? And so I feel that, and it really is amazing. And then, I was a point guard, she was a point guard, and there's kind of a level of understanding there as far as how you look at things, and you have to be very proactive. You've got to really see ahead. And she's like one of the best I've ever been around at doing that. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, if I think I'm prepared, okay, no, she's prepared. Like she's, 10 steps ahead. So yeah, that video that you referenced, it actually, again, over 3 million views right across all platforms, which is pretty cool. We didn't think, it's funny because we didn't think it was going to do, I literally was like, oh, I think 10,000, maybe 15,000 views. Like that was literally what we were kind of estimating as we were getting ready to get it out. And sure enough, it's like over 3 million. And we're still getting, letters, calls, and messages about it to this day. But yeah, it's been very cool that I get to work so closely with someone, like you said, that I grew up watching play and watching on TV with ESPN. And of course, most recently, like coaching in the NBA, and now I'm like, wait, you were just like in the bubble. And now you're like in my office and we're talking about Twitter, like what, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's been awesome. And I'm very excited to see where this program goes under her leadership, because she really is built for this, right? I mean, again, she's played for Pat Summitt, coached under, Brad Stevens now with the Celtics, and then has Coach K, right above us. Right. And not to mention there's many others that have influenced her journey, and many other great people, of course, that she attributes, right, some of her success to. But those 3 names alone, I mean, just give me one of those names, you know what I mean? And we have all 3 that I'm like, and then I get to kind of soak that in via her. So yes, I mean, I pinch myself every day. Like, this is what I get to do. It's really amazing.
Yeah, that's huge. Actually, one of my best friends, I will say he's not really tapped into the women's sports side of it. And he sent me the video. First of all, I'm like, okay,
oh, dope.
Like relax. Like I've seen it, but that it just kind of crossed that barrier. That was huge. So 3 million views, big time. You talked about Pat Summitt, you talked about all these major influences. Who were those people for you when you were growing up that you did look to?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of referenced my middle school PE teacher, Coach Haskins, and then my high school basketball coach, Casey Higgins. Those are two people that definitely have been huge influences still to this day. Big thing with strong women in leadership. And even at this point, that would have been 13, 14 years ago that I was in middle school. And even back then, you didn't see a lot of women in leadership positions. And we know that's a huge kind of fight that we're still fighting for now in 2020. So back then it was even less. And I think that was a huge thing, was seeing females that I could like see myself in their shoes.
Right.
And they were just, amazing, like so strong, so confident. And I had no concept of like a male female gap in sports
Right.
at that time. You know what I mean? Of course, yeah. And by the time you get to college and you start to see more, oh wow, we still have a long way to go, right? But yeah, they were just so strong at such a young age. So to be able to be around that definitely influenced me and showed me women, belong in sports as much as anyone else. Of course, my mother, I got to shout out my mom. She's a mother of 6 kids and a full-time attorney. So she's taught me a lot about resilience and work ethic. So I would say those are probably my biggest influences at a young age, as far as, where I am now.
Yeah, shout out to moms.
Yeah.
But you and you're going to be that for somebody else. And I think that's why it's so important, like, to have these sort of conversations, because these are positions that, again, they're not commonplace by any means, but a young girl sees that, well, she can stay involved in sport by doing this, and knowing your journey as well. I think it's huge.
Right.
All right, we're going to change gears just a little bit. All right, we're going to do a segment called It's a Vibe. All right, so
Okay.
I want you to think of a trend that you're really into right now. So that could be clothes, shoes, something like a social media trend, since
Right.
that's a thing. But yeah, something like that where you're really into it right now.
Jordans.
Okay.
I'm kind of late to the shoe game, to be honest. I always was like happy with a pair of like Nike free runs. That did it for me. But lately, like the last probably year or so, I've started getting into the Jordans and some of the like Air Max type shoes. And so I would just say that's kind of the trend that I'm on right now.
Okay, sounds like an expensive trend. Sounds like a hard to
Yes.
get trend, but I feel you. The show is called Major Keys. What is one major key that you would give to young girls, those looking to get into the field that you're in, or just to even motivate them?
The first thing that comes to mind, I always like to share this, is that confidence comes from within, right? And it comes from doing the work. And if you're not quite sure what that means or what work looks like, ask, reach out, especially this day and age with social media. As you referenced, that's the space I occupy most of the time. And a DM on Twitter goes a long way. I know my DMs are open. I love it. I love it when young, especially females, yes, but anyone, reach out for just general advice. Hey, how did you get there? Hey, this is what I do. I'm trying to break into the industry. What are some things I can do? So asking for help in the early stages, I mean, at any point really, but especially in the early stages, I think is very important. Worst case, you don't get a response. I mean, maybe that kind of bums you out for a little bit, then you move on, right? I mean, like I said, I always respond. So anyone who might want to reach out, like, please do. Like I said, my DMs are open, but no, that's why I say confidence comes from doing the work and let the work speak. At the end of the day, winners recognize winners, workers recognize workers, and that's very real, especially as you kind of climb in your career. And sports is very competitive as a player, right? And then obviously, like when you're on the other side, kind of in a career capacity, it doesn't. Workers recognize workers. I think that's kind of the key here, for someone who's searching for motivation, right? Or trying to get into the industry. It's pretty clear from my vantage point.
Thank you so much for joining me. I think those who are watching take a lot of information from not only your journey and your work ethic and things like that, but just the idea of kind of even putting yourself out there, and like you picked up a camera last year and now you've got this viral video, all these things. I think it's just so inspiring to young people, people even your age, because I am your age. So I look forward to seeing your work continued at Duke, and hopefully I'll get back to Duke and I'll be able to see you work in person.
Yeah.
get on the court and shoot a little, because I didn't get to do that last time.
Oh yeah.
And anytime I walk into a gym, that's kind of,
You
I'm
gotta
sure you
shoot.
understand. You got to shoot there. So.
And especially Cameron, Cameron
Yeah.
indoors, it's real because I was a little like back 3 years ago, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to make this move. And when I came up here and walked into Cameron for the first time in my interview, I was like, okay,
Oh,
I'm staying. I don't want to go back home now. Like I'm ready to come and stay here
right.
right now because it is. So yes, we will definitely make that happen post COVID,
Yes.
God willing, right?
Yes, particularly post-COVID. But yes, thank you so much. Again, thank you so much to Selena. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things. And I'll see you here next time on Major Keys. Keys, keys, keys. I got the